Now on to the other half of the Sussexes, and this week Harry made a surprise appearance at the Upfront Summit. Here's a snippet of what he had to say.
How do we invest in our shared future to solve the challenges we face today as a divided society? Now, as a dad, this has me constantly looking for solutions. And as a man who was born into a life of service, I recognise that with power and a platform comes huge responsibility.
Samara, is there anything notable or new in what Harry had to say?
Not really, Caroline. Only if you count reheating stale talking points and making it news. Honestly, Harry's speech is another rinse and repeat of his greatest hits: mental health, family struggles, woe is me. I mean, this all comes out fresh on the heels of bullying claims against Meghan and working with her. So it's really hard to take his faux empathy to her seriously. I mean, his comment about parenting being easier in the US, very rich, considering he previously said that he felt very isolated and unsupported without the royal staff. So which is it, Harry? Genuinely, do you love the freedom or do you miss the palace perks? I mean, his inconsistency is so exhausting.
Now on to the palace side of the ledger, and Jason Naff, a former chief executive of the Prince and Princess of Wales Royal Foundation, he's recently done an interview for 60 Minutes Australia for the documentary Where There's a Will. Here's a clip.
The thing I have heard from Prince William is, you're going to do this in your own way. You know, every generation of the royal family has to reinvent the role for the generation that they serve. The succession planning operation is a kind of always on thing.
Is it as formal as we think in terms of, you know, having lessons to be king?
No, I'm afraid I don't think it is.
Pandora, what's your view on the shaping of Prince William for this documentary?
Yeah, look, I think it gives an insight into a personal life which he is so guarded about, and very much understandably, especially in the last couple of years, and the spotlight very much being on him and his wife and their children. So this does give a slight insight, as I would say about any of these documentaries. Take it with a pinch of salt. But this documentary in itself, with the interviews that they have been given access to, I think will show perhaps a slightly different, more emotive side of Prince William, which we don't see a lot, even when he's going to events which perhaps for me and you and for other viewers would perhaps make them slightly emotional. He always doesn't want to make it about him. That's his whole thing. And I think that's what he gets so right. The Wales' family just get right. It's not about you. It's actually about the events that you're going to. Yes, there are lots of interest surrounding your family, but it's actually about the cause you're shining a light on. So it is nice to hear about it. We hear some lovely stories about the Princess Charlotte baby news and how there was a note on the floor giving away sort of like her name, her weight when she was born, and then actually he hadn't even told his family himself, so they had to then push that back, and this note was never found. So there's some really sweet little stories within it, and of course it does also speak about Catherine's diagnosis as well. So yes, it's nice to hear about William, and William by himself, because you usually hear about William and Catherine, but now the spotlight's very much on him in this. So I think royal watchers will be able to learn a little bit more about him in this documentary.
I think they will, and obviously with him being the heir to the throne, people will be interested. He's refining a lot of the skills that he's seeing his father as king display. So it will be very interesting to see this and whatever else comes up in relation to that. Thank you so much, ladies, for your time this evening.